Hello, all my rugby fans. This is Girl Meets Rugby. I'm Christina Lanham, and we have made it to episode 009. We're almost into the 2 digits of 10. As I was talking last week, I think I mentioned how busy I've been with work and how tired I've been, and all of that culminated into I'm pretty confident on last week's episode. I said that Chicago was on a bye week, when in fact they went down to the Shrine and Airline in New Orleans and played the NOLA Gold. So yeah, I'm a little tired. I completely missed the match last week. So Chicago did take that one for a win. It was a tight match, but I I do apologize. I was completely confused last week, and it's not getting much better this week, but we're gonna give it a whirl anyway, and we've got lots of things to talk about in the news. We've got things to talk about in the WER, and of course, things to talk about in the MLR. So let's go ahead and get this underway, and let's talk about something that is newsworthy. All right, over in the UK, we had an announcement that the Worcester Warriors are going to be making their return to Tier 2 in rugby, in the rugby world there. They entered in administration back in 2022 and have finally been able to work their way back, where they will be playing in 2025 or 2026. Sorry. See, tired. But it's exciting to see them come back from administration. There's still some other teams like the Wasps and such where we're waiting to see if they'll be coming back. But good to see that. Unfortunately, where there's some good news, there's often some bad news. And Cardiff Rugby announced that they are planning to go into administration. And so it's a hard time for Welsh rugby at this point, and they're definitely continuing to see the effects. So we'll have to see what happens with that, what their plan is going to be, what's going to happen with the players. But Cardiff Rugby is going to be entering administration. On the Rugby World Cup side, they are doing some expansions. So the men and the women are increasing to an additional 4 teams each. So that'll be 24 teams competing for the men's, 16 teams competing for the women's. And with that, we've got some new countries making some debuts or some long waited returns. On the women's side, Brazil is making their debut this year at the World Cup in England. And then Spain, their men's team, is making a return for the World Cup for the first time since 1999. And don't do the math. You don't want to know how long ago that was. If you're anything like me, it'll just make you kind of question your life choices. And on the USA Rugby side, they have announced their extended player squad, which can be utilized for the upcoming test matches and hopefully maybe be selected in for playing for the Eagles in competition for that World Cup. And so we had 12 people that are getting their very first invitation into the extended player squad. And that includes Lindenmuth from Houston, Kofe from Utah, Ma'afu, who's playing in France, as well as Pittman is playing over in France. Esdale was Seattle, who was most recently a Olympian. We've got Schumacher from Houston, Verlinghuis from Houston, Johnston from New England, Poitevin from San Diego, Akina from Houston, and Gaffa from Anthem RC, and McLean from Houston. So all of those folks are getting their very first chance to play with the on an extended team for the Eagles squad. Overall, there were a large number of candidates picked from the MLR teams. Leading it was obviously Anthem RC, who's one of the main purposes to help produce future Eagles. So they had 10 people selected. San Diego had 9. Houston had 8. Seattle, Chicago, and New Orleans and DC all had 6. LA had 3, and Utah had 2, as well as Miami had 2. And then the remaining 10 were playing for either overseas teams or colleges. But it's exciting to see as Scott Lawrence works to put together his roster and his teams for the test matches. I'm sure he'll be working with the MLR teams, particularly for those like Anthem RC and San Diego and such, where there's quite a large number of players that hopefully they'll kind of break those up so San Diego isn't all of a sudden out 9 of their starting players, for a couple of weeks. But that's definitely going to have to be something that they'll work out on their own. But exciting to see USA Rugby starting to announce those things, and definitely looking forward to these test matches that are going to be coming up in just, a few short weeks. We'll be getting started with those. And with that, let's go ahead and jump over to Women's Elite Rugby and talk about the week they had. Okay, I think we could announce that this weekend was a weekend of domination from half of the teams. So the general point differential in the matches was between 53 and 55 points from the winner and the loser. So it was not even a close contest when it came to these matches. The Bay Breakers had their initial home game. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, they weren't able to do any live stream. It doesn't look like we're going to get any footage from that game at all. And I know there was definitely some different feelings from people about this. If you weren't aware, so they're playing in Lodi, California, which is not exactly the San Francisco Bay Area. It's about 5 hours inland from there, but there's not a lot of available rugby pitches that the Bay Breakers could find. Lodi was more than happy to welcome them in and have them at the Great Bull Stadium. Based on what I can see off of a few news reports that I've been able to scour through the internet, it seems like the Great Bull has kind of fallen on hard times. It's not necessarily been used very much. In fact, one of the volunteer groups in there, Love Lodi, went in the week before this match to go clean the trash out of the stadium and such to try and help make it presentable. So it just sounds like, the Bay Breakers are working with what they have. It does seem like the city has gotten some funding to help repair like bleachers and lights and things of that nature. And hopefully by the time they come back to have their next home game, these technical difficulties will be figured out. But I think, in this new league, trying to get things started, not everyone really wants to extend grace. But, I don't think that they've got the operation there that maybe we have at some of these other stadiums. You've got the Boston Banshees playing in Quincy at Veterans Memorial, which is where the Free Jacks play. So it's got a long history already of hosting rugby matches, televising rugby matches, and all of that. We'll have to see how they come along, really hoping things kind of get worked out for them. But it is something that has happened, and, we just have to keep rolling with it. Regardless of whether they were televised or not, where they had been on the losing end of, 60 points to 7 the week before, they turned that around on the Twin City Gemini. So Bay Breakers beat the Gemini 66-12. So I think they definitely made a statement coming back saying, hey, we are here to play. We're ready. And so really great to see that performance come out of them. For the Gemini, this is their second loss in a row. So I'm sure they're trying to figure out what's going on. They had a strong performance against the Tempest in week 1, but haven't been able to really perform since. The Onyx took on the New York Exiles, and Onyx were the same dominant force they were the week before against the Bay Breakers, and so they beat the Exiles 62-7. and they are definitely a tough team to watch. They're having consistent, really strong, high-scoring performances so far. And then to wrap it up, we had the Tempest versus the Banshees. This one, the Banshees won handily, 65-12. And so, again, Tempest and the Gemini, so our Midwest teams, seeming to be struggling to figure out how things fit together. It seems like the Onyx and the Banshees, I feel like those teams have played together quite a bit based on what I've been able to glean from commentary and such. So maybe they're just have a better cohesion than some of the other teams do. But, it's early in their season. It's their first season. There's a lot of bugs and things to work out. But again, crazy weekend, super high scoring matches. The standings currently have the Banshees sitting on top at 15 points. Onyx is in second place with 10 points, and they still have a game in hand. Exiles in third with 7 points. Gemini in fourth with 5 points. Then the Breakers in fifth with 5 points, also a game in hand for them. And then finally, rounding it out in sixth is the Tempest with 1 point. So we'll have to see what this coming week brings for the Women's Elite Rugby, but they're at least getting some things on the map. They're making some exciting games. I'm not typically a fan of a blowout game like that, where it's like, oh my gosh, well, obviously they're going to win. But there's just some really great plays that the folks were making, and it was exciting to watch regardless of the score. It's been really fun to see what they've been put together. So that's Women's Elite Rugby. Looking forward into the next week and hoping that the Bay Breakers Stadium gets things sorted out, because we definitely want to watch a match from their location. And if you haven't heard, their shop is restocked. So if you wanted to buy some merch and you hadn't had the chance yet, go to the WER website and you can go to their shop and you can get stuff. I was hearing from the Rugby Rant podcast. Was it the Rugby Rant? No, I think it was the Misfits Show. Sorry, the Misfits Show. With Scott the Big Guy and the Misfit Maven. They were talking about that for now, at least, when you go to a match in person, they've got merch for both teams available for sale, which I thought was really cool. Because typically when you go to a venue, it's, whoever the home team is, it's their stuff. But it's great to see them try and bring stuff for both teams and just kind of spread the love for that merch as we get people in the door and get new fans. And that's all I got to report there. So let's go ahead and jump over into the MLR. All right, we've got some 50 cap celebrations that have occurred in the past week. Andrew Coe from Los Angeles, Davey Kutzer from Houston, Jason Higgins from Chicago, Mason Flesh from Chicago, Wayne Vanderbank from New England, and Corey Daniel from DC. All of these gentlemen have achieved 50 caps, 50 appearances in the MLR. So congratulations to them. I did want to point out for Davey Kutzer with Houston SaberCats, he is the third player on that team to reach 50 caps, where all 50 were achieved within the team itself. The first was Zach Pangilinan, who for this last week's game was honorary captain. And then we had Emmanuel Albert, who was also our first draft pick to reach 50 caps. And then finally Davey in at third. So really cool to see that, just growing with the team and really helping to define what they are going to look like moving forward into the future. And then if we kind of go and look at the games that were played this weekend, there were some that were really close. There were some that were not so close. There were definitely a few upsets. I posted somewhere, I was like, I feel like I need to rethink my life choices when it comes to my Super Brew, because I apparently do not know how to select winners. So my rankings are just continuing to drop steadily. But we had Old Glory DC take on the Seattle Seawolves, and DC came out with a really strong win, 29-12. So I don't know what's up with Seattle this year, but it's just not clicking for them. So yeah, that was a shame to see on their part, because I was just hoping they would have a stronger show out. It is a tough match to do, much like DC had to fly all the way to LA to play a couple of weeks ago. Here we had Seattle having to make the long trip over to DC. Those cross-country matches are never easy on the team, so I do want to give them a little bit of grace in that, but it's also part of the job. Anthem played New Orleans down in Metairie, and so I was really thinking that Anthem was going to pull it together and have their first win, but NOLA was not about to have that. They came together really strong, put on a really good performance against Anthem and beat them 33-19. And then we had Houston versus LA. In Houston, the weather was real crappy, and you could tell in the stands that the weather wasn't great because the stands were really light, which is unusual, especially for this time of year. With the Houston team, usually their stands are pretty packed, but it was a tightly contested game all the way through up to the very last second, where it could have ended in a draw. But unfortunately, Houston missed the conversion, and so it was 22-24 in favor of LA. This gives LA their fourth win in a row. So congrats to LA on that. Like, they are definitely coming on strong at this point and really getting their momentum behind them after, kind of starting out the season with 3 losses. They're now definitely gaining steam. And then we had San Diego versus Chicago. And again, another tightly contested match. Ultimately, Chicago pulled away with an extra try, beating San Diego 20-27. And then we wrapped up with New England versus Miami. I think everyone was really confident New England would be able to pull it off. But New England was like, no, we've got our things going. We're back in working form. And it was up to the half. It looked like it was going to be a close match. I think it was like 12-6, 12-5 or something like that. But no, its game ended at 43-6. And so, it was, they definitely made a statement that they are back. They're ready to perform. And so they're definitely looking significantly stronger. And I would say our highs of the week teams were definitely New England. I mean, you can't ignore a score, a 37-point differential win. And then New Orleans, who really needed a win. They needed a comeback. They were winning at home. Or actually, no, they played in Anthem. I'm sorry. See, I'm thinking they played in New Orleans. I'm tired. They played over in North Carolina, but they needed that win. They needed something positive to come there. Old Glory DC continuing to perform well this year. Even the match they had lost to LA wasn't by a significant amount. I mean, that was the game where who knew who was going to win and who knew who was going to get carded next. But they played a much cleaner game this time around with Seattle. So it's great to see them performing so well. LA with their 4 in a row. And then Chicago, who's just continuing to perform strongly. Lows of the week, I would say, were Seattle, Miami, and Anthem. Houston didn't play great, but they definitely played well enough. I mean, they got not only a bonus point, but a losing bonus point, which really affected the outcomes in the standings at the moment. But Seattle's just struggling. They're struggling this year to click. And so we're just going to have to see what it's going to take for them to get things going. Once they do, they are a formidable force. They just don't seem to have it at the moment, though they've got some real shining stars on their team. So they've got everything they need, I think, to make it happen. They've just got to overcome whatever mental block or whatever it is that's happening with them to get some stuff going. Miami, they're very hot and cold. So they have a lot of flair. They'll be playing really great for a bit and then kind of lose it. So we'll have to see what happens with them. I'll actually be in Miami this weekend for the Miami-Houston match. So I cannot wait for that. I'm super excited. I haven't been to the Miami Stadium yet, so I really want to get out there. I want to meet the fans. And so that's going to be fantastic. But they just have really got to work on playing a consistent set piece. When they play well, with like Ardell, I mean, he's a machine out there, and he can poach a ball like nobody's business, but can't hold on to it. If you can't convert, it doesn't do you a whole lot of good. And then Anthem was definitely a low this week. They'd been performing so well, and just did not look nearly as strong this particular week. So I'm hoping things will come back together for them. They really are on an upswing. I think everyone's rooting for them to get their first win. So we're all waiting for it. I mean, nobody wants it to be their team that gets beaten by them, but we all want to see them get a win. And then we'll just kind of look at our standings. So in the East, we've got Chicago sitting on top at 27 points. DC in second with 22 points. New England right behind them in third with 21 points. NOLA is in fourth with 16. Miami in fifth with 11. And Anthem in sixth with 5. In the West, there's been a little bit of a shift. Houston has eked past San Diego to have 27 points at the top. San Diego has 26 points in second, and that's really because they didn't get a bonus point with their game, so they only had scored a few tries, and so they had the losing bonus point, but they didn't have that extra one. Houston, while they didn't win, were able to eke out that extra point, which gave them the ability to jump ahead. But 27-26, it's real close. We'll have to see how these next weeks go to who's going to ultimately end up on top. In third, you've got LA with 23 points, so they're really close behind. Utah is in fourth with 21, and they have a game in hand. So they could very easily jump ahead of LA or get close up to LA. And then we've got Seattle in fifth with 15. So Seattle is definitely significantly behind. I mean, they would have to, have several games to win or several points to be earned, with other teams not earning any points to really get themselves ahead. So they are definitely in the danger zone as we, move through the halfway point of our season. I would say the top spot is up for grabs from all four of them. Houston, San Diego, LA, Utah. Depending on how they play out over the next few weeks, we could see that that leaderboard shift around quite a bit. Chicago, if they keep playing the way they are, they're going to stay at the top in the East. They've been really good, really in general, pretty consistent. DC, again, also real consistent. So I think if they keep performing that way, they'll do well. New England, they've been a little all over the place, but they've had a couple really strong matches in a row now. So definitely going to be a contender. And then we've got basically NOLA and Miami kind of battling it out for fourth. And we'll just have to see. Both teams have been really all over the place at this point. Who knows where they're going to end up. If they can get on, a more positive streak, if NOLA can capitalize on their win from this week and move that forward, we might actually see some things happen. And so that is what we know in the world of rugby this week. I will again be down in Miami this weekend cheering on the Houston SaberCats, but also looking forward to getting the Miami vibe and hopefully get some Miami merch. My goal is to get a little something from each team. But that's the world as I know it. I wish you guys the best and go watch some rugby, guys.